Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly My Hero Academia Season 5 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk about episode 12, The Power and All for One. And this also happens to be the 100th episode of My Hero Academia. 100 episodes! This doesn't feel like a 100 episode special. I'm just going to toss that out there right now. But before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AnyTube know that you're here. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode, shall we? So, at the very beginning of my list of things to talk about is, of course, my best boy, Monoma. I absolutely adore Monoma. Two pieces, you guys know this. There's nothing new about my appreciation from my boy. But I definitely appreciate that Horikoshi has decided to keep the character relevant. I feel it would have been very easy for the man to just sort of relegate Monoma back to being, you know, Class 1B's mouthpiece and all that fun stuff. But instead, they actually managed to use him to further the plot, which I think is really interesting. They have Monoma come and meet Eri, which is great. I did have a moment where I almost felt like Eri looked older. I don't think that was necessarily the case. I think it's just one of those things where, like, we haven't seen her in a while, so she looked a little older to me. But Eri's just as friggin' great as ever. It's nice to see her, and it's nice to see her happy above all else. But she is scared to meet Monoma, since she calls him the bad side of UA. And I was like, wait, what? And that's when Muriel's like, oh, I called you the bad side of UA when we were, like, hanging out at the festival that one time. And Monoma was like, oh, thanks, right? Poor Monoma. Like, when he's just there to help. But yeah, they actually managed to keep Monoma relevant by having him be so involved in the plot, which I think is really clever. They actually had him, had his quirk woven in. Not only do we know that Deku has a stockpiling quirk, we find out that that's also how Eri's quirk works as well, which does unfortunately mean that Monoma can't, unfortunately, like, tap into it. As we find out during the episode, Monoma actually can't really use stockpile quirks. The way it's established is that, as the show gives an example of Fat Gum not being able to, Monoma not being able to use, say, like, Fat Gum's quirk because Fat Gum needs to store fat, but if Monoma were to have his quirk, he wouldn't actually gain the fat, he would just gain the ability. So he'd still be skinny while using it. It does make sense. I get why Monoma wouldn't actually suddenly become, like, you know, like, big and chunky, like our boy Fat Gum. But, you know, so instead it's more of the idea that he can use these quirks, but he can't fully use them to the way that they said. Or to their fullest abilities, I should say. And it's a bit of a bummer. I will admit that I was definitely confused while watching the episode as to how Eri's quirk is a stockpiling quirk. I kind of forgot how Eri's quirk even worked. Because, like, in my head, I'm like, does she take away quirks? No, it's that she rewinds time. Which I'll admit, I would not have known if chat did not point that out. So that was a whole thing. So... Thank you to my chat. Well, I'm recording this live, actually. I'm actually recording this live with Twitch, the Twitch viewers, so shout-outs to them. But they were the ones who pointed out that Eri's quirk is a rewinding thing. It's been that long that I completely forgot how Eri's quirk worked. But the idea is that, like, if the energy is stored in her horn, then that means that Monoma can't really use it since it is, by its own definition, a stockpiling quirk. In the same way that Deku's is, right? Deku is a stockpiling quirk, not because it's built up energy, but more so that it is building on the different powers that go into One for All. So it makes sense why Monoma can't use these powers, but it does break my heart a little bit. If anything, I'm gonna hope that maybe at some point down the line, Monoma can train more and actually find a way to use stockpiled quirks. Now, I'm sure some people are gonna be like, oh, that makes him OP, blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily think that makes Monoma OP. I think that just makes Monoma even better. You know, my boy Monoma deserves to be OP. He's never gonna be the main character. He himself has admitted this, and it's one of the reasons why I love Monoma as a character. Monoma is very aware of the role he plays. You know, like, he's very aware. He's almost sort of like Loki / Deadpool-esque, where it feels as though he almost is aware of his role as a fictional character. It's not like he breaks the fourth wall or anything. It's just that he states, like, I know that I am just a supporting character, but that means I can do things the main characters can't. And I do think it's going to be interesting to see if they continue to keep Monoma in the plot. I do feel like I'm getting a little tired of seeing Class 1B get sort of shoved to the side. One of the most refreshing things about this arc has been the fact that Class 1B has gotten so much shine, and I hope they continue to get shine, because I think that they're really interesting, whether that's Monoma or Tetsu or Kendo or Vine or any of those characters. Like, I think they're all able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Class 1A, and I know that that bothers some people for some friggin' reason, but it's true, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Monoma's a badass. She deserves to be in more of the show. I hope we get to see him. I think we know that that UA's whole purpose is to teach these kids how to become heroes, but also how to harness their quirks. So I think one day having Monoma eventually learn how to control his quirk to the point where he's able to find a way to use stockpile quirks, I think that makes sense for his character, and I think that makes sense for what UA is meant to do in the first place. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Monoma does train up and does learn how to use stockpile quirks, and then in turn trains Eri how to use her quirk. But, you know, I'm hoping that he doesn't try to use One for All, because I feel like it probably wouldn't go well. Deku reminds us that, like, oh yeah, if you use One for All without training properly, you would explode. And as well-trained as Monoma is, I do think it's not the same training that Deku went through. I think if we're talking in terms of physicality, Deku is a bit more shredded than Monoma is. Monoma is definitely, like, a strong combatant. We've seen that with how swift it was that he attacked Deku when Deku thought that, like if you remember last week when Deku thought everything was cool, and, like, after he had calmed down, the first person to initiate the fight, like, to start back up, was Monoma, and he was very swift with it. And I do feel like Monoma does have a solid base of training. Like, I do think in terms of his physical training, he is solid. I just don't think he's as strong as Deku in terms of physicality. Like, without, if you take away their quirks, I do think Deku's still physically stronger than Monoma, which does make me think that if Monoma did use One for All, he might actually explode. But if he did, it'd be an incredible explosion. It would be a fabulous explosion, because Monoma's the friggin' king, okay? As far as I'm concerned, Monoma's still absolutely dope. And I agree with Monoma, where Monoma's just like, this doesn't mean anything, because all this means is that you beat us here, because I didn't know that your quirk was, what does he call it? A blank. So if I knew that, I would have formulated a better plan, and we would have won. And I've said this before, and it makes me laugh that people actually get upset. And if you do get upset, good. Dude, let that consume you. Leave a dislike, and I hope you get angry about it. But Monoma would beat Deku. I don't care if that makes you upset. Class 1B, like that group, Monoma and Shinso versus Deku and Uraraka, they still would have won. I don't care. Like, I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that that group would have beat Deku and that squad. Like, the group that we see at the end, Monoma's group could have still beaten Deku's group if they knew that that was a blank, right? I don't care if that makes you upset. I believe Monoma. I know that you're gonna be like, oh, he's just saying that. I wholeheartedly believe Monoma could have taken Deku's team out there. Just saying. But with that said, though, that's not all I want to talk about this week. I would love to continue gushing about Monoma, but of course, that's not the only thing that we have to talk about. We gotta talk about Bakugo and Todoroki, duh. I will say, I mentioned this during the stream that we have right now, but I'll repeat it so that the people watching the video later will also hear it. But Bakugo and Todoroki having the second half of the episode feels like a slight disservice to them. My Hero does this sometimes, and it does sort of drive me nuts, where they will sort of split the episode up into two parts. They'll split it in twain, and I don't like when they do that. I don't like when any shonen series does that, I should stress, because I've seen a lot of shonen series do that, where they split the episode into two halves. So the first half is just the aftermath of Class 1A versus Class 1B, and dealing with Monoma, like, trying to help Eri, and then the second half is Bakugo and Todoroki finally getting their licenses. But it felt very quick, and it didn't feel like they got the time they deserved. Because to me, this episode, like the second half of the episode, should have been an episode in and of itself, and it should have been like a whole thing focusing on Todoroki and Bakugo, maybe starting to come together as a duo, because we know that Bakugo doesn't like Todoroki. He constantly calls him half and half bastard, which is not okay, even though Bakugo is my son. I don't appreciate him talking to my other boy like that. But Bakugo and Todoroki working together here was super cool, and I loved seeing it. And it was really nice to see them finally get their licenses. It was nice to see Gang Orca again. It was super cool to see the other students, Kami and what is his name? Inumaki? Inu something or other? Tornado Boy. Don't remember his name right now, but he's great. You guys know me, I'm terrible with names. I give everybody nicknames for a reason, okay? So it was nice to see Tornado Boy again. And it was cool to see Kami again, because, Horikoshi be drawing people in such a way that it's, I'm always going to be excited to see Kami, just going to be honest. But it was cool to see the characters again. It was cool to see Gang Orca and everybody, and it was nice to see them finally get their licenses. Would have been cool to see them actually get their license, but unfortunately, again, they split up the episode, which I'm not crazy about. It feels like we sort of missed out on something cool. I would have loved to have seen how they got their license, and I would have loved to have seen, like, if the other students got theirs as well. I assume they did. And it would have been cool to see that fight in the second half actually fleshed out. Because we do get a fight in the second half, although it's more like a one-sided beatdown. Bakugo and Todoroki come across, along with All Might, I should stress. Bakugo, Todoroki, and All Might come across this dude whose design is sick. His design is like all blue. He has this like sort of like, it's like all like white and light blue. And from what chat told me, because the episode didn't do a great job at explaining this, his power is sort of carbon-based, which would mean that it's like the carbon in the air, so he can make like water, or he can make things cold, stuff like that. Because at first, his outfit, his design, if I might do a very small design time, because I don't have a whole lot to say about it. His design, I think, is cool looking, but I don't think it fits his character very well. Because it feels like this like snowboarder look, but it doesn't exactly fit his character. I don't know what design I would have given him. I guess it's like, it's fine. It's just, I think it's cool looking. I don't think it really tells us much about that character. So that's like a whole thing there. But it is what it is. I think it's a cool design. You guys know me, I'm design time. No designs for me to really sink my teeth into this week, because that's my big takeaways. There's no design that I can really chomp into. It's why this video might be a little bit shorter than previous videos. But it was cool to see Todoroki and Bakugo not only like completely dismantle this man, but also just have him on the back foot for so long that Bakugo has time to save all of the purses and wallets that were stolen before he incinerates these dudes. Because he lights these dudes up. Like, he lights these dudes up like it's Canada Day. You know what I mean? Just fireworks everywhere. But instead of fireworks, it's explosions! And it was glorious, because Bakugo be my boy. But Todoroki also gets this big moment where he, like, you see him using his fire side, right? His fiery passion. You see him light this dude up as well. And just before we get this fight, we see him texting Endeavor, asking him to teach him how to use, I believe he calls it Hellfire. And we didn't, again, it's another situation where I'm like, I feel like that's a missed opportunity. In the same way that cutting the episode in half feels like a missed opportunity to tell a really cool story with Bakugo and Todoroki, I feel like it's a missed opportunity to not get the classic Shoto from Endeavor, because Endeavor sees that, Todoroki sent him a text and asked him for help, asked him to train him, and we didn't get a Shoto! I really wanted a Shoto! Like, it felt appropriate. I better get a Shoto at some point in the future. I feel like it's well earned. But it was cool. It was a cool fight. I think, to me, the biggest thing that I walked away from is Bakugo being more involved with One for All and All Might. All Might is there when Bakugo and Todoroki are taking down the villains, but we actually see Bakugo save All Might at one point, because All Might goes to save this civilian from getting hit by the streetlight, and Bakugo ends up saving the two of them from getting hit. So, like, it ends up being Bakugo who jumps in. And we actually see Bakugo in the room when All Might and Deku are talking about what Deku's new quirk could mean, right? Like, Bakugo's there because he knows the secret. And while we were watching, folks in the chat also pointed out it'd be really cool if Todoroki eventually found out the secret as well. And I feel like it's only a matter of time until he does. But, you know, for now, we'll just have to kind of wait and see on that front. I do think the episode was solid. I don't think it was episode 100 material. You know what I mean? Like, you should have gone balls to the walls insane for episode 100. Instead, it's sort of just like a wrap-up episode. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. I didn't love it, but I did like it. I'll say that. Like, I'm making it sound like I didn't enjoy myself. I did. It's just not... For an episode that is literally the 100th episode of the show, it doesn't feel like it. That's all I'll say. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names, and hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button. That gets you a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you could check out that Patreon link in the description. For just a single $1, you can help keep the lights on around here, and I would sincerely appreciate it. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. And that is pretty much it for me. Thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. I actually streamed the process of making this video over on our Twitch page. So you guys should follow us over on Twitch. I might do this again. So if you've ever wanted to see behind the curtains on how I make these, you know, come hang out with us over on Twitch. In general, I'm trying to become a Twitch partner. So if you want to help out your boy, if you enjoy these videos, come follow us over on Twitch. Come watch streams. Come hang out with us. I'd really appreciate it. And you get to hang out with me, you know, in real time. So that's like a cool thing. But yeah. Anyway, bye.